Hey guys, I'm Jax and this is my review for HotD. Now I don't have to tell you what that means, you clicked on this video. But just to be clear, just so there's no miscommunication between you or I of course mean that this is my review for this hot donut. One hot donut, cinnamon, classic, always tastes good. Or does it? Let's find out. Now that was a good hot donut. Not the best I've had, if I'm going to be honest, but if you knew where I bought it from, which I cannot disclose for legal reasons, you would be like, that's probably not going to be very good. And it wasn't great, but it's a cinnamon hot donut. And I'm giving this a 3.5 out of 5. So this week of HotD, I found to be kind of disappointing, to be honest. I found it to be underwhelming, unsatisfying, a bit of a nothing finale. It kind of felt like it would have been a really fantastic second or third last episode. Like if this season had 10 episodes like season 1, I feel like I would be primed and excited and hyped for the final 2 episodes. It felt like it set the stage so nicely for a finale. But for a finale, I found myself very unsatisfied and I felt like it completely left me wanting. It didn't hype me the way I think maybe they meant to, and that's due to 2 main things, and one of them I loathed beyond comprehension. I was so stunned by it, I actually can't believe they went down that route for a massive character moment. It reeks of prequelitis in the worst way, and it really makes me feel like if this wasn't set in Westeros, if this wasn't a prequel to a thing that I loved, yes, the last 2 seasons are atrocious, but 1 to 6, like the best show ever. And so I feel like if this was just some fantasy show, I would watch it and immediately forget about it, and I'd be the only one watching it. No one would be watching it, no one would care, because it's just not that good. And it's really relying on the reliance of you loving this universe. Like there'll be a moment where Lannister soldiers are walking, and you hear that great theme from that other show. And like a character will say something, and you're like, oh, I remember, yeah, winter is coming, from that other show. And like dragons will be in the show, and it's like, cool, yeah, the visual effects are good, but they only have the budget to do that because of, guess what? That other show. This just felt so meandering. I felt like the character motivations don't really make sense. Throughout the season, I've been pretty critical at times, but I've generally enjoyed most of the episodes. I feel like the only one I didn't like was episode 5, and now this one. It's just like didn't work for me at all. Now to be clear, my issues aren't that the show didn't do some kind of big action set piece war, or there weren't dragons burning people and doing those big moments. I'm very aware of what Game of Thrones was. Episode 9, the second last episode, the penultimate episode. That was the biggie. And then there was just an episode of Aftermath where everyone just went, oh my god. Oh jeez. Oh, this is, we don't live in a good world. This sucks. And everyone just deals with the horrifying, thing that happened. It can often feel like a recovery episode, an aftermath episode, but then it will build and do other things. And that definitely changes later in the show when there's just more stuff going on. But generally speaking, the penultimate is when the stuff happens, the big action set piece. And we got the big thing last week. There was a big dragon and there were 20 poor people in a room and he killed all of the poor people. But then he smelt that one of those poor people's dad, or maybe the dad's dad, wasn't poor. And he was like, wow, that guy can get on my back so we can go kill other poor people. Classic dragons, just being very problematic. So my issue isn't that it is a dialogue-focused, character emotional kind of slow burn of an episode. My issue is that the 2 major things that happen this episode with 2 characters, and the whole season's kind of been building to this moment, the reasons why they do the things they do baffled me, infuriated me, and I just think are plain stupid and dumb. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I like the show that much now. Because that's the whole build up. That's how you're gonna do this. That's how this story is gonna progress with these decisions. And it's my least favorite thing that this show does. And that's that every time something good or interesting is happening, like the big battle at Rook's Rest, there's big dragon battle, but before the battle started and as the battle kicked off, bloody Budget Daenerys is like, son, did I tell you the tale of A Song of Ice and Fire? There's ice zombies and it's going to be very exciting for about 8 years. And then the last 2 years, when the really most exciting things should happen, it will be soul-crushingly disappointing. Have you heard the tale, son? Shut up. Shut up, prequel show, Game of Thrones. Stop reminding me of Game of Thrones, particularly the back end of Game of Thrones, particularly the White Walkers. And what does the show do? It has the entire motivations of one major main character. Matt Damon is like, the whole season he's like, I could probably do this on my own, I reckon. I'm having trippy dreams at Harrenhal and just trying to raise an army for myself. But then he has a dream where he sees the White Walkers and goes, well, I'm just a bit player. It's all about Daenerys Targaryen. So I guess I just will change my entire character. My entire character will just flip, do a complete 180 because of these ice zombies that are so botched and so badly finished in Game of Thrones that just seeing a White Walker, I shriveled up. I got shrinkage of the soul and the mind. It made me so upset. It's just why would they think it's a good idea to elicit any memory or feeling or emotion to a White Walker? Baffles me. It genuinely baffles me. I cannot possibly comprehend. You're sitting down in the writer's room. You have 8 seasons where you can track exactly what worked and what did not work when they were trying to adapt George R. R. Martin's book series. And you're just it's different mistakes, but it feels like you're writing off the wrong things. We don't want to be reminded of the White Walkers. We don't want to be reminded of the prince that was promised. And in this vision, it's we see Daenerys. Remember Daenerys? Remember that character you loved for 10 years? And then they ruined her in 35 minutes? Yeah, I remember. It's been 5 years, but I remember. We all remember. And to have a shot like that and not even pay her to come back, it's just so... It's like a horrible cameo from a Marvel movie. It reminds me of the Flash movie at the end when they resurrected a bunch of dead characters and went, cameo? Do you like that, you stupid nerd? That's what it felt like. I feel embarrassed. I feel embarrassed for them to think that's something you should put in. It's it hasn't been that long where seeing Daenerys elicit some kind of wonder or joy. It's just oh yeah, that's right, they ruined Daenerys. And worst of all, and honestly, this is the thing that really, really annoys me, because it really reiterates how much they ruined it all at the end. It's if Daenerys, as the prince or princess, they didn't have genders back then, or whatever Miss Sunday says in that episode, that means the prince that was promised could be Daenerys. She's not even the prince that was promised. Even if he has a dream, he's we've got to make sure that we team up so we can have babies that one day will be Daenerys Targaryen in a bunch of generations' time. But she didn't stop the White Walkers? This whole vision, this whole dream implies that, Daenerys stopped the White Walkers? I saw that show. She did not stop them. In fact, she actually is the only reason they even crossed the wall. This magical wall that no one can get past, and they clearly can't get past. She flies the dragons over, they kill a dragon, and they fly it undead back and burn down the wall. So, really, Damon's having a vision of the White Walkers. And he's oh my god, we've all got to team up, and I'm not going to do my own thing, because we're all just bit players in this. We're all just minor characters in this terrible prequel series. I've got to team up with my wife. We've got to team up so we can have babies or whatever, and one day it'll be Daenerys, because Daenerys stops this horrible threat, the Song of Ice and Fire. Winter is coming. Do you remember when you liked that show and that guy said that all the time? Yeah, Ned Stark. I remember. Yeah, I remember. And so he's all right, I'm going to stop serving myself and I'll serve you. Because Daenerys is going to stop them. We're going to have babies, they're going to have babies, they're going to have her. But she doesn't stop them. She's the only reason they get past the wall. Shouldn't he be having dreams about Arya? Now, don't get me wrong. Arya killing the Night King is probably my least favorite moment in fiction. Ever. It's the pinnacle of everything I hate about Game of Thrones. It's the worst moment of storytelling of all time. She had nothing to do with the White Walkers. Let's not get into it. We all know why it doesn't work and it's the worst thing ever. We all know. If it wasn't going to be Jon Snow when it absolutely just 100% should have been, if you're going to subvert the fantasy genre for 10 years, just do the thing for one. If it wasn't going to be Jon Snow, I think it could have been Theon. I'm not going to get into why. I don't have enough time in the rest of the world to explain. But having it be Arya is the single worst choice. The worst choice. But that's what happened. That's what happened. That's what happened in this horrible, horrible world that is horrible and I hate it. So, Shouldn't have he had some kind of dream where he's like, oh my god, we need to have babies so that Daenerys can be born, so that she can bring the White Walkers over, and then there's gonna be this tiny little girl that like sometimes changes her face, and like how she does that, and like how she changes her voice, it's very unclear. It's kind of Mission Impossible style, but we're kind of more serious than that series, so it doesn't really work in the same way that they think it works, but she's gonna jump out of nowhere. Where did she jump from? I guess she was on the back of a walker, and she just jumps off out of nowhere, and boom. That dagger we've all got, that's a magical dagger that just does some crazy stuff. So she's going to do it. But we've got to make sure that we don't kill each other so that we can have a Daenerys. So that Daenerys can force the White Walkers to actually breach the wall. And maybe if we don't have Daenerys as a child, like they won't breach and it will be fine. And they just won't cross the wall. I don't know, man. All I can say is, it's brought up things from the past that I just, like, don't want to think about. Also, I didn't like that Alicent was like, yeah, let's do a son for a son. Sounds good. What about the baby that died at the start of the season? Why does that baby not count? She's like, that wasn't me. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Like, it wasn't you specifically. It was someone on your team. You gotta take... Like, you gotta act like a manager and be like, if one of your team does something wrong, that reflects on you. You've got to be the boss. Well, she wants to be the queen of the kingdom, and she's like, no, that was actually someone else. Like, definitely, my right-hand man, sure, but no, that wasn't me. I hate her. Budget Daenerys sucks. Now Alicent sucks. You know what? The only character that is cool is Aegon. He's running off with Littlefoot, and they're going to escape. I was like, oh, that's fun. What kind of fun adventures will they have? And by fun, I don't mean fun, because this show forgot that humor was a massive part of Game of Thrones, and it's just a very dour, self-serious show with spectacular production values and CGI. Yeah, I didn't like this. Who cares? It's over for 2 years. I don't have to think about it for another 2 years. And I can stop being reminded of Game of Thrones. Thanks for watching.